Okay, welcome to the deep dive. We've got a bunch of sources here, all covering the latest in artificial intelligence from this past week.
Yeah, lots happening.
We're aiming to give you the shortcut, basically. Cut through the noise and tell you what really matters right now in AI, based on what's in these reports.
It's definitely been a busy week. We're seeing major shifts from new models and cost changes, all the way to creative tools and this whole global AI race.
Exactly. So our mission here is to unpack all that for you. We'll pull out the key takeaways, the insights, so you can get informed fast about the big moves. We'll look at what these new AI models can actually do, how the cost of using them is changing things, how AI is boosting creativity, the global competition aspect, and even peek into things like robotics and science.
It's a really broad range this week, and when you dig in, you see some fascinating connections and, well, implications for all of us, really.
Yeah, I noticed that too, how capability, cost, and even like national strategy are all tangled up. Okay, let's dive into that first big theme. These major steps forward in AI capabilities, especially from OpenAI, and the surprising cost angle.
Right. So the reports are highlighting OpenAI's newest model. They're calling it O3 Pro.
O3 Pro, okay.
And it's described as a pretty significant leap, particularly in its reasoning power.
Reasoning power.
Yeah.
What exactly does that translate to? Why is that important?
Well, essentially, it means the AI is getting much better at, thinking things through logically, making connections, understanding complex stuff.
So not just predicting the next word.
Exactly. The reports mention it tackling tough math problems, debugging code really effectively, analyzing documents like PDFs in depth, and even using web search while it's doing that to pull information together. It's more about understanding and manipulating concepts.
So it's like a much deeper level of understanding. I saw one report use this analogy.
Yeah.
Comparing its potential to a Nobel Prize-winning scientist.
That gives you a sense of the scale, yeah. The kind of complex, tricky problems they think this AI is starting to grapple with.
Now, usually, more capability means a higher price tag.
You'd think so. But here's the twist we found in the sources. Alongside this capability jump, OpenAI slashed the price by 80%.
80%? Wow. That feels unexpected. What's the impact of a drop like that?
It's huge. The reports are pretty clear on this. It basically democratizes access, makes these cutting-edge tools way cheaper.
So not just for big companies with deep pockets anymore.
Exactly. Think startups, researchers, students. They can now afford to use this top-tier AI much more easily. And potentially, it enables new features in apps you use every day or tools for your work.
Right.
One source specifically flagged this, saying AI queries are now something like 280 times cheaper than just last year, 2023.
280 times cheaper. That just changes the whole economic equation.
Completely. It fuels innovation when access costs less.
And this isn't happening in a vacuum, right? The competition is fierce. We saw mentions of France's Mistral launching Magistral for businesses.
Yep, definitely a global race. And the reports also mentioned China's DeepSeek R1.
Ah, yes, performing well on math tests.
Exceptionally well, apparently. Though there was also a little note, kind of a rumor in the sources, suggesting it might have, let's say, borrowed some ideas from Google's Gemini.
Interesting. Highlights how competitive and maybe a bit murky this space can be.
It really does. Ideas spread fast, sometimes controversially.
Okay, so speaking of fast, let's shift gears. Let's talk about something maybe more fun for a lot of people. Creative AI tools. How AI is empowering creators.
Yeah, this is moving quickly, too. The sources point to several new tools that are making sophisticated creative stuff much easier to do.
Like that Meta AI video editor mentioned. Taking a video clip and just with text, turning it into a comic book or changing outfits, swapping the background.
Right. And the key thing highlighted was no real editing skills needed, lowering the barrier significantly.
Making advanced effects accessible. But the report seemed particularly excited about Google's VO3.
Ah, VO3, yes, that one stood out.
Generating video from text is one thing, but the detail that caught my eye was generating video with perfectly synced, realistic sound effects.
That's the game changer.
They use that example. Type cat playing piano, and you get the video, plus the purrs, plus the actual piano music. Apparently, it can even lip-sync dialogue.
Exactly. It's moving beyond just visuals to creating like a whole multi-sensory scene. The automatic, accurate sound makes it feel much more real, much more immersive.
Huge implications for content creators, I imagine. Faster prototyping.
Definitely. Though the reports also mentioned a potential cost around $250 a month, so maybe positioned more for pros initially.
Okay, still significant. And then, also covered on the sources, Apple's big WWDC announcements, Apple Intelligence 2.0.
Right. Integrated stuff like real-time translation and conversations, smarter photo handling, AI woven into their Shortcuts app.
With the detail that seemed really key to Apple's approach, especially regarding privacy.
The on-device AI, yeah.
They're letting developers tap into the AI processing on the phone itself.
That's the core idea. Instead of sending your data off to the cloud, the processing happens locally on your iPhone or Mac chip. Keeps your information private.
Right.
One report summed it up nicely. Privacy nerds rejoice. It's a clear strategic choice offering AI features while trying to address those data privacy concerns head-on, different from the cloud-first models.
That privacy angle, and thinking about data locality, it connects nicely to this other big theme in the reports.
Yeah.
This global push for AI sovereignty.
Definitely. Nations wanting their own AI.
And the huge news highlighted here was India launching BharatGen.
Yeah, that's a major development.
The reports really emphasize that it supports 22 India languages. Why is that specific point considered such a big deal?
Well, think about India's incredible linguistic diversity. An AI that understands and works in Tamil, Hindi, Bengali, you name it. That's critical for reaching everyone.
Basic services even.
Exactly. The reports mention things like telemedicine in villages where you need to communicate in the local language, or just general access to information for people who don't use English primarily.
Makes sense.
And there's another layer. The reports explicitly state a goal is to counter potential Western bias in AI models trained mostly on, well, Western data.
Ensuring it's culturally relevant and serves India's specific needs.
Precisely. It's about accessibility, cultural alignment, and independence. And the investment figure mentioned, 235 crore, shows it's a serious national priority.
So it's sovereignty in terms of language, culture, and data.
That's a good way to put it. And we see echoes elsewhere. Europe backing Mistral, China pushing ahead despite some controversies. Everyone wants control over their own AI future.
Right. It becomes a strategic asset.
And that connects back to the hardware, too. Building all this AI needs chips. One report mentioned that chip boom, $850 billion in AI chip sales, prices ticking up 5%. The demand is massive.
Okay, so looking further out now, the reports also touched on future applications. Robotics, for instance.
Yes, the partnership between NVIDIA and humanoid.
Their goal sounds almost sci-fi. Using simulators to design new robots in just 6 weeks.
It's incredibly ambitious. The key seems to be these advanced simulation environments.
How does that speed things up so much?
You can run millions of tests, train the robot's AI, iterate on designs all virtually, overnight basically, way faster and cheaper than building physical prototypes for every little change. It accelerates the whole process dramatically.
Like fast-forwarding evolution for robots.
Kind of, yeah. And you see related progress in the real world. Another quick point was self-driving cars, like Waymo, now doing 150,000 rides a week. That's AI controlling complex physical systems at scale.
And beyond physical robots, there was Microsoft's Discovery platform mentioned.
Right. This sounds fascinating, using multiple AI agents working together.
Autonomously.
That's the idea, to tackle really big, complex research problems.
Like what? Curing diseases.
Yeah, the reports gave examples like accelerating drug discovery or finding new ways to combat climate change. Basically, creating AI scientists' autonomous systems doing complex research.
Wow.
And it fits with another trend noted. Healthcare AI reportedly now outperforming doctors in specific tasks, like spotting cancer on scans. AI in science and health is clearly advancing fast.
Okay, but with all this power, autonomous agents, AI scientists, the reports, also bring up the safety concerns. They highlighted Yoshua Bengio, one of the godfathers of AI.
Yes, his new initiative, Law Zero.
And its goals, as reported, sound pretty serious. Stopping AIs from lying, hiding code, resisting shutdown.
It really underlines the fact that even the pioneers in this field have deep concerns about potential risks if we don't build in safeguards.
Right, it's not just outsiders worrying.
Not at all. And it creates this tension, We see Bengio pushing for safety, but then another report mentioned the EU might actually pause AI laws because of industry pushback.
So rapid development on one hand and a struggle to keep up with rules and safety on the other.
That seems to be the dynamic, breakneck speed versus the slow pace of governance.
And just to quickly touch on the immediate business side again, there was that Salesforce Agentforce example.
Yeah, practical application. Cutting hiring time from weeks down to just hours using AI.
Shows the immediate efficiency gains businesses are already seeing, right? It's not all future gazing.
Absolutely. Tangible impact happening now.
Okay, let's just quickly recap a couple of those other quick-fire points from the reports we might have only touched on, just to be thorough.
Sure. We mentioned the chip boom and prices linked to that sovereignty push.
Right, and the healthcare AI beating doctors in some cancer detection tasks, showing that capability increase.
And the scale of self-driving cars, Waymo's 150K rides week, showing AI in the physical world is really scaling up.
And that tension around regulation, with the EU possibly pausing AI laws.
Yeah, those bits and pieces really just reinforce the overall picture. Massive momentum, diverse impacts across industries, and this constant push-pull between innovation and control.
It paints a picture of a field just exploding in multiple directions at once.
It really does.
So, stepping back from all the details in these reports, if you had to pull out the single biggest takeaway from this week's deep dive, what would it be?
I think overall, the reports show AI isn't just getting smarter technically, it's becoming way more accessible.
Accessible how?
Well, dramatically cheaper, like we saw with OpenAI, more usable for creative tasks without needing expert skills, and crucially, more global, being tailored for specific languages and cultures, like with BharatGen. This idea of democratizing AI power really came through. It's spreading out.
That's a powerful trend.
Yeah.
But the reports definitely show the flip side, too.
Oh, absolutely. With that power comes challenges. The realism of generated video and audio raises big questions about deepfakes and trust. The ethical debates about bias are front and center. And this intense global competition for sovereignty creates geopolitical friction alongside those fundamental safety worries voiced by people like Bengio.
It really drives home that call to stay curious, stay critical that one report mentioned.
Exactly.
Okay, so here's a final thought for you, our listener, kind of tying some threads together from these reports. We heard about designing complex robots in just 6 weeks using AI simulations, incredible speed. But we also heard about AI pioneers launching safety initiatives like Law Zero and potential pauses in regulation. So what does that contrast, that almost unbelievable speed of AI development and deployment versus the seemingly much slower pace of figuring out safety and rules, what does that really mean for the future you're going to live through as AI gets woven into everything?
That's the critical question, isn't it? A dynamic to watch very closely.
Well, thank you for sharing your sources for this deep dive. Hopefully pulling out these key themes helps you make sense of the rapid changes.
Yeah, tried to distill the main signals from all the noise this week.
So what stood out most to you from our discussion of these sources? Definitely something to ponder. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.